I'm really honoured to talk with you today about our research entitled Enhancing Communication Equity, Evaluation of an Automated Speech Recognition Application in Ghana. This research was equally co-authored by Gifty Ayoka, the amazing speech and language therapist based in Accra, Ghana, and founder of the Talking Tips Foundation, Dr. Giulia Barbareschi, Senior Assistant Professor at Keio School of Media Design in Japan, Professor Kathy Holloway of UCL, Academic Director of the GDI Hub at UCL, and Professor of Interaction Design and Innovation at UCLIC, the UCL Interaction Centre, and me, Richard Cave. I'm a speech and language therapist providing consultancy to Google Research on many projects, including Project Relate mentioned here, and principal speech therapist for the MND Association, which is the leading non-profit for people living with ALS in the UK. If you have any questions or want to discuss this work, Professor Holloway and I will be at CHI, and Kathy's email is on this page too. We would love to hear from you, hear your views and reflections on this work. It's estimated between 28% and 49% of people living with disability worldwide experience difficulties with communication at some point in their lives. And these difficulties can emerge due to a variety of congenital, acquired and progressive conditions, including cleft palate, cerebral palsy, Parkinson's disease, stroke, hearing loss, head and neck cancer, ALS, trauma, or even infection, and myriad other conditions. People with impaired speech that may be difficult to understand or just different from what's judged as standard or normal are often subjected to stigmatizing attitudes, including questioning their competency, their beliefs, abilities, life choices, identity, role in life, acceptability, and many other negative impacts. As a result, people living with disability and communication difficulty are often amongst the most marginalised groups in our society. And in Ghana, as in other West African countries, these barriers are often more pronounced because of a lack of support, such as there are very few speech and language therapists in Ghana. Consider this, in Ghana there's a population of nearly 30 million, around 30 million people, and fewer than 40 speech therapists supporting the entire country, leaving most people with communication needs without the support they require. There's low availability of assistive technology to support communication due to cost and support, and stigmatizing cultural beliefs add to the already significant barriers faced by people living with impaired speech. So, Project Relate is a free Android app that works on low-powered phones, Android 9 and higher, and has been available in Ghana, India, USA, Canada, UK, Australia, New Zealand since 2022. People with non-standard speech, as they term it, this is speech that's difficult to understand by others, can train a personalised automated speech recognition model, or ASR, specifically on their own speech patterns. The goal of the tool is for people with speech that's difficult to understand to be better understood, with the help of captions that are generated on their phone as they speak in real time. And the argument is the additional modality for listeners of the captions may support their understanding of the conversation as it unfolds. There are 4 functions in Project Relate. There's the listen, which is the live captioning. There's repeat, which repeats what somebody says in a synthetic voice. There's assistant, which allows and supports interactions with the Google Assistant tool. And keyboard, which is a speech-to-text alternative to the standard keyboard integrated with other applications, the Gboard. So you can use your speech to dictate emails, send texts, write documents, send a WhatsApp, whatever. Additionally, and importantly, relate allows for personal words and phrases to be recorded and hopefully better recognized by the ASR. This is essential to support an ASR better understand the words that people actually use, the nouns, the proper nouns, people, places, and things that people may say in daily conversation, which may not be part of the generalized large language model. To date, we are not aware of any study that has looked at the practical implementation of ASR for people with non-standard speech in Ghana, and nor, to the best of our knowledge, anywhere in the global south. And our goal was to better understand the mechanisms that determine differences in access, capacity, and motivation among users of Project Relate in Ghana. We conducted a 6-week study involving 10 speech and language therapists and 20 adults with communication difficulties in Ghana. We trained the speech therapists on best practices for using Project Relate, using a train-the-trainer approach to ensure they had all the skills they needed to be independently successful without requiring us at all. And they in turn supported their own clients, the 20 adults. We utilise Technology Amplification Theory to analyse data collected during training observation. This is similar to many other HCI studies examining the use of mobile phones amongst marginalised populations. This theory argues that technology in itself is neither a positive nor a negative force. It is simply a tool to be used, and is more likely to be beneficial when amplifying already successful interventions that build on existing capacity and positive intent. If the landscape of speech therapy services in Ghana is changing, opening up opportunities for people who have difficulties articulating speech, could ASR tools such as Google Relate amplify these possibilities? Technology requires infrastructural support at several levels to deliver beneficial effects. For example, access to electricity or connectivity, as well as the social willingness to accept technology at a broader level. And where one or more of these elements are missing, the technology may simply increase societal gaps, widening inequalities, and leading to further marginalisation. These mechanisms of amplification can be articulated around 3 axes. The differential axis, the simple fact that technology exists does not mean one can access it. Devices require money to be purchased, operated. Software is only available in a handful of languages, generally spoken by people of higher socio-economic status. Accessibility or inaccessibility of physical and digital systems also impacts who is able to access what and in which contexts. Although a person might be able to access a particular technology, the extent to which they could benefit from it would be influenced by a series of factors that influence their personal capacities, including literacy and skills operating the technology, confidence, and other people's attitudes. All of these are especially relevant with a tool that's used for communication, such as this. When a person is able to access technology and is capable of operating it, the ultimate use is likely to be decided by the person's specific motivations. For example, if there is no expectation of a beneficial outcome, perhaps due to systemic barriers such as those caused by stigma, there is no reason to invest effort. Furthermore, while user motivations are often scrutinized, there is a risk of reduced recognition of the amplification of a negative motivation from wider societal structures, even from conversation partners. The most basic factor that determined who would and who would not be able to access Google Relate application was, as expected, the availability of a smartphone that would match the minimum specification required for Relate version 9, Android version 9. Another factor was accessing reliable internet connectivity. And as Relate is only available in English, any conversation between speaker and listener must be in English for Relate to have any benefit, and this was significantly limiting to many in Ghana. Furthermore, the Relate large language model is based on American English, meaning that the rich and diverse ways that Ghanaians speak English required the recording of many custom cards for the ASR to better recognize their words and grammatical constructs. And the strengths and the limitations of this ASR technology need to be equally clear to those using it, including the communication partners. The ASR captions will never be 100% accurate in our experience, and there are many factors for ASR captioning accuracy, not least the severity of the person's speech difficulty. And this applies to both speaker and listener. Not being clear on the limitations of the technology risks loss of trust and, possibly worse, allocating responsibility of failure to the person using Relate rather than the limitations of the technology itself. We do not want people living with impaired speech to feel added responsibility for the failure of the technology to recognize their words due to the limitations of the technology. And let's not forget too that communication skills, the ones we use naturally, also matter, including good listening and paying attention and all the other factors. It all matters because the goal of ASR is to be understood. ASR technology is about people and how they interact with the world that they live in. Radia uses Relate at her university whenever she feels it helps her to be better understood. She's the first person in her family to go to university and the first person in her faculty with cerebral palsy. Adwa is a successful human rights lawyer living with cerebral palsy. She's considering returning to her work in court and talking in court, and will use Relate to help her be better understood as and when needed. We made some recommendations for the roadmap of Relate, and these are some of them. The first was to simplify the process of custom cards. Custom cards were very important to enable people to train Relate to better understand the words they actually use and actually say in daily life. Also, that for Relate to enable people with disability in other nations where English is spoken to try Relate if they wish. And the third is to enable people to speak in the language they prefer, rather than the language Relate accepts. This is very, very important. Bear in mind we're talking about conversation here. So, thank you for listening, and we would love to hear your views and reflections on this work, and please get in touch. Thank you.